everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are going to be working on a Glinda-inspired dress so that I can wear it to the opening of Wicked next month. I have actually been wanting to make this project for over a year and I have been sitting on this fabric for over a year, but it is finally time. I did not have time last year to do this before part 1 of Wicked, but we're doing this before part 2. And this is the fabric that I have been sitting on for so long. It is this gorgeous pink sequin mesh, except that it's not really fully pink. Basically, I thought when I had been keeping this literally in the corner of my room on the floor on its bolt for, I don't know, probably close to 2 years, I thought that this was just light pink sequins. And then I went to go pull this out a couple of months ago when I was looking for like potential things to sew and realized it's really not, because when I laid this on top of pink, like a solid pink, this basically turned blue. And so it made me realize that this is really like a mixture of pink, blue, purple sequins. I don't know how much that is reading on camera. I feel like on camera it's looking pretty darn pink. However, when we lay this over the fabric that I found finally to go with it once I realized that, which is this lavender or lilac cotton that I got from Michaels. This was actually the really good quality stuff from Michaels. It did wind up coming in pieces, but we're gonna work with it. And this underneath the pink is so beautiful. It brings out all of the colors of the sequins, but also somehow lets the pink shine through. So these are the fabrics that we are working with today. We've got the pink sequins for the outer and the lilac cotton for the under. And let's talk a little bit about the design. So originally, when I first kind of like got this fabric, this was the dress that I was like, oh my god, I'm making this dress. This is a Fanciful Doll dress. I've been in love with this dress forever, and I actually had the chance to see a long version of this dress on someone at a ball this summer. Gorgeous. Like, she just like shone from across the room in this dress. It was really fantastic. And so I've been wanting this dress for a really long time. However, I only have 5 yards of the sequin fabric, so we're not actually going to be able to make the Fanciful Doll dress. So we're going to make something inspired by that and also inspired by Glinda, because to me, pink sequins, pink sparkly, that is Glinda. And actually when we introduce the lilac in here too, it really makes me think of Glinda's new gown. This one right here. I'm in love with this gown. I definitely want to make this entire cosplay at some point when I can find the fabric. I'm hoping that when I go to LA in January, I can look for the fabrics then. So hopefully it won't be that long off of a project, but these fabrics aren't right for it. So I'm not saving these for that project, but I will be making that project at some point. However, I figured that I could kind of make this as an inspiration between both the Fanciful Doll dress and Glinda's dress and kind of combine it together into one. So that is what we are doing in today's video. Now, before I get started on the project, I do want to remind you that if you are watching this when it comes out, there's only 2 weeks left to join the Ireland trip. I'm very, very excited. If you have not heard me talk about this trip before, I've talked about it in the last couple of videos, but we are going to take a group trip to Ireland to stay in a castle. I know. We are going to be doing different photo shoots every day with various themes, both historical and fantasy. We've got a professional photographer on board. It is going to be the most amazing trip. All your food's included, etc. It's going to be so cool. I'm so excited for it. So if you are interested in that, remember there's only 2 weeks left from the time of the publication of this video during which you can sign up for this trip. So all of the details are linked down below in the description. Definitely go check that link out and sign up for the trip if you are interested and you want to join me in Ireland this summer. Oh, the dates are August 7th through 14th, by the way. So let's talk pattern first off, and overall design. I do want to keep kind of the ruffled design of the Fanciful Doll skirt as much as possible. Again, I can't do that many ruffles. I don't have that much fabric, but my thought is that I can probably do 3 ruffles. I hope I'm right. I hope that I can get away with 3. I'm gonna have to be really careful in all of my cutting, but part of the reason why I think that a ruffled skirt is going to do better than, say, like a circular skirt, which is kind of more what Glinda's skirt will be in the new movie, or at least what it appears to be, is that this fabric is a two-way stretch. So two-way means it is only stretch on one side of the grain, because going along the grain, it doesn't stretch at all. That is firm. However, going across the grain, it's super stretchy, which means that we can't really hang things like this that much, and really even on the bias it's a little bit risky because sequins get heavy really fast. And so if you're cutting a material like this on the bias and expecting just a really long gown with like long seams, etc., you're gonna get a lot of stretch out. So my thought on this is that I can do strips going across grain like this and then gather those up, and we're going to be taking away any of the strain that might be placed on the stretchy part of the fabric by gathering on that stretchy part. So I think that's going to work really well. Those ruffles are then going to be attached to the lavender cotton, so they're going to, like, each tier is going to be sewn to the cotton as opposed to sewing the tier to the tier above it, and I will just get a little bit fuller with each successive tier. So again, I think I can get away with 3 tiers on this, and it'll keep that really just like gorgeous sparkly vibe, because I feel like when you gather this up even more, it just catches the light even more. And the other thing that will do though is that I don't want to swear to it, but I think that that means that I am actually going to want 2 layers of this sequin layered on top of each other over the lilac for the bodice, because otherwise by the time that I ruffle this up, it starts looking lighter pink. And if I were to go with just 1 layer for the bodice over the purple, it's gonna look a lot more of that like purple depth of color that I was showing you. But if I do 2 layers over the purple, it does a little bit more pink than that like really kind of multicolor look, and it'll blend better with those ruffles. So that's my plan with the skirt. With the bodice, I'm still torn on what pattern I want to use. Part of me wants to do that sweetheart cut like we see on the Fanciful Doll dress. The other part of me kind of wants to go a little bit more Glinda with it and do like a V-neck sort of strap with like a thicker strap and then into that V. So I'm gonna make the skirt first because that's gonna be taking up the most fabric anyway. And then I'm gonna make the bodice, retaining obviously enough fabric for the bodice. And then I will also figure out with the sleeves, because you know I love a puff sleeve. If you have been around this channel at all, you absolutely know that I love puff sleeves on like as much as possible. But the new Glinda dress has fitted sleeves with that fun little shoulder puff, which is really just like a shoulder frill, frankly. This isn't gonna frill. This is too heavy. You need really lightweight fabric for it to frill. So like that's not gonna be an option on here. And honestly, this is not a good fabric to just have a sleeve out of because it's really quite rough on the back. And so like she has sheer sleeves in that dress, but I would not want this against my skin. That would not be that happy. So I am leaning more towards puff, to be honest, because let's face it, the original Glinda, we're talking big pink puffy sleeve dress, just all sorts of wonderful. And obviously Glinda's dresses in the Wicked movie pay homage to both the original Glinda dress from The Wizard of Oz, as well as the stage versions of Glinda slash Galinda's dress that were used on stage for Wicked in like the traditional Broadway and West End productions. So we're just kind of gonna do an amalgamation and an ode to all of those, as well as the Fanciful Doll dress, and just come up with our own fun new design. So let's start by working on the skirt. The base skirt, just because it's easier to mount ruffles on straight panels as opposed to circular panels, the base skirt, the lavender part, is going to be straight panels. So I'm going to cut out straight panels. It's going to be very full, and it's going to be gathered at the waist. Kind of like this one, to be honest. This was a full straight paneled skirt that was gathered at the waist. So I'm probably going to look at having it maybe nearly as full. Obviously it doesn't have to be this full because we're gonna have ruffles on top of it, but I'm gonna do a pretty full skirt for the base, and then I'm gonna start cutting sequins galore and ruffling sequins. Oh my god, I'm a glutton for punishment, aren't I? Ruffling sequins, that sounds like my machine is going to hate me. But we are going to start on all of that and start putting the skirt together. Okay, a couple of things. It has actually been a few days since I kind of started off this video, but the only thing that I've done so far has been to like rip my base panels for the skirt. And it dawned on me today that if I were to go ahead and do like the sequin ruffle pieces first, that I wouldn't necessarily be able to maximize my like quantity of the sequin fabric, aka I need to do the bodice first, because if I do the bodice and the sleeves, then all of the rest of the fabric can go into the ruffles on the skirt, and it gives me potentially more to play with than having to kind of be like, oh yeah, I think I need to save this much, or you know, just doing the math of like, oh yeah, 2-to-1 ratio, etc. No, I'm going to maximize this and use as much sequin fabric as possible into the skirt. Therefore, we are actually starting with the bodice. And I have decided, bodice design wise, that I do want something a little closer to the Fanciful Doll bodice as opposed to Glinda's V-neck. I just tend to find that sweetheart necklines look better on me than V-necks. It's just what it is. Everyone probably has like their preferred neckline, right? And sweethearts look really good on me. I actually really like this look right here. Now this jumper dress, if you remember this from a couple months ago, this jumper dress is a like new twist on my Gunny Saxoween pattern. It was very like altered from the Gunny Saxoween pattern, and I want something in between the two. So I am going to be doing a mock-up on this because basically I obviously made this very specifically a jumper dress. Like, we don't have an arm's eye to put a sleeve into. We have a pretty darn low back, like lower than I would want out of an actual dress, because I just don't feel comfortable, generally speaking, with a really low backed dress. And since this is a dress and not a jumper dress, we've got to change a few things. So I want to mostly use this pattern. I am for sure going to be doing a zipper in this one because frankly, I regret not putting a zipper into this, and I'd have to do a lot of tweaks to add a zipper at this point because the skirt doesn't line up with the bodice. So we are putting a zipper in this. Though as I'm saying that, it dawned on me that I have 3 skirt panels, and with 3 skirt panels, that doesn't really make things line up, generally speaking, for a side zipper. So I will either have to cut a slit or have to adjust the gathering on my skirt panels. But yeah, I did start off with just 3 widths of the fabric for my skirt. So the base skirt is something like, I think 130 some odd inches around, but it's 3 widths of like 44.5 inch wide fabric. So bodice wise though, I am going to be kind of using this pattern, but kind of using the Gunny Sax pattern because I am bringing back things like a strap and an arm's eye. So I'm gonna have to tweak this a little bit because I don't want the strap to be this wide, and I actually really liked the curve of the bust that wound up with this jumper dress where things curved out a little bit wider in the center piece, which is, I don't know if you're seeing, no, you weren't seeing the blue line, but there's a blue line here. This was like the change that I made to get the new shape. So I'm going to do a mock-up. I'm just going to use the lavender fabric because I have so much of it. So like if it works as a liner on the first go, great. If it doesn't, no big deal. That fabric was basically like $1.50 a yard or something, which is why I wound up not returning the rest of it. And then I am going to do the back height somewhere in between this and the full Gunny Sax, which just goes all the way up to the neck. It's going to be nowhere near that. It's probably going to be a couple of inches higher than here, probably pretty akin to the back height of like the Barbie dress, the blue sparkly dress, the Winnie the Pooh dress, like that pattern that I very frequently use. I didn't want to use that one for this because I didn't want the tuck effect right here, and that is what makes that pattern fit so well. Like I love that pattern, which that one, by the way, is a spin off of 8252 Simplicity. So I love this pattern. It fits great. It's one of the best fitting bodice patterns I have. as is the gunny sacks pattern. So that's why we're gonna jump off from the gunny sacks. I'm gonna go put together a mock-up and we will fit that mock-up and see how it goes. I've decided I'm doing something a little bit weird and different here skirt-wise, as far as like where the pockets and the zipper are going to go, because this is a 3-panel skirt, but no one sees the skirt underneath the sequins. Now, I don't want the sequins to incorporate into the zipper because, like, I mean, they have to in the bodice, obviously, but in the skirt, I don't want them to. I want them to free flow. So we're going to have a slit in the sequins to access the zipper, but it is not going to actually go into the ruffle. It is just going to go into the skirt below. It is needing to line up with the side seam of the bodice, obviously. So I have actually measured where that side seam is going to get to on the back pieces. This is the center back over here, and this will wind up being the right side. I always prefer a right side zipper. I don't want a back zipper because back zippers are really hard to do, which is why I'm trying to do this as a side zipper, because I can't do up a back zipper. So I'm putting the zipper over here and I'm literally just going to cut a slit in the fabric, serge the edges, and incorporate the zipper into that slit. The pockets are going to be a little bit farther forward than the side seams. That way they're not in the way, so they're gonna sit probably about right here. That happens a lot on my 3-panel skirts, and that will keep them out of the way. I'm also not gonna incorporate the sequins into the pockets. I will be able to lift up underneath and access my pockets that way. So that's how that's gonna work. Let's go try on a bodice mock-up. So I'm very confused about how this happened, considering I've used this pattern how many times and my tweaks weren't that big. It's huge. Like, it's really humongous. At the bust and sort of armpit area, it's actually great at the waist. The waist seems perfect. And kind of like the lower body seems perfect, but I don't know what is going on upwards of the bust point. That is where all is going awry. It's even tall in the shoulders. Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. I'm gonna have to study it in the mirror and figure out what's going on and take a bunch in various places. Even the bust point seems high and pointy. The bust itself is like too pointy. So I have to make a lot of changes. I don't know what happened here, but obviously wrong things happened. Yeah, gotta fix all that. So I took 1 inch out of each side underneath the arms from about like tapering here up to the top. And I also smoothed out those weird bust points. I don't know what happened there. Obviously I do have it on inside out here just so that I can check fit. And the rest of the fit issue is coming from right here. So I'm not sure why this got so off from before, but I need to take in from basically kind of a little bit above the bust point up to the shoulder because it's kind of just like falling off my shoulders. So I just need to like pinch out here-ish, which of course I'm going to wind up with a bust point issue again that I'm going to have to solve. But yeah, it's too wide in the center, so something weird happened there. I mean, in the changing like into the jumper dress, I did widen this and narrow this. Maybe I did that wrong this time. That's possible. And in fact, come to think of it, I was looking at like the side pattern piece because although I have kind of these orange mock-up pieces left for the back and for the center front, I didn't have the side one. I think it was because the side one worked. And so I just used it as my lining in the jumper dress and did not recut. But when I held up the paper piece to the jumper dress, it looked like it was a 1/2 inch too small, like it needed seam allowance. So I added the seam allowance all the way here, and I think that's what's caused this fit issue, or at least partially caused the fit issue. So I am going to get rid of a bunch of that now and see what that does. Obviously, I also didn't have straps in that other pattern for the jumper dress. It's like I didn't have, you know, they weren't continuous, they were separate little strip pieces. So I just need to figure out how to get these back on my shoulders, possibly shortening them a little too. I don't really think I want to shorten them because I feel like this is hitting the waist where I want it to, but it does seem like it keeps wanting to puff up. Obviously, it doesn't have the skirt attached and it's a lightweight little cotton shell right here that doesn't weigh anything like this dress is going to weigh, so I'm not worried about that in the final, but right now we definitely have a width issue that I think will be solved by taking this out and kind of bringing those back up the shoulder. So it does now fit correctly. I basically undid this seam right here and then like slid over the middle section and repinned until it fit. And it does still fit. I also did take in this part of the shoulder, though I left this part as is. So like I just tapered it out. And I am still getting a little bit here, but not enough that I think it's gonna bother me. But what is gonna bother me is this seam line. So I hope that you can tell what's happening here. It's like going in and then out again. That's not gonna work for me. So I have to tweak what I just did and give myself more of the centerpiece like between here and less of the side piece, because it's all just kind of curving the wrong way. Otherwise, things are now fitting. Again, I'm still feeling like a little bit of the shoulder slippage, but I don't think it's too long. So I'm gonna wait on that until I have the sequins on, because that could change the weight of things. So that I'm just gonna leave as is for now, but this I do need to fix. So I'm gonna take this off one more time, kind of undo that little section, and hopefully get at least a straight line. All right, that's looking much better. It is straight now, so I really like that. I also actually shoved this front bit of like the side seam over just a little bit. I think it was like literally about 1/4 of an inch right up at the top. It might have been 3/8 of an inch. Just kind of that top, like this much under the arms. And I think that has helped this a little bit. It's still there a little, and I don't feel like it's gonna go away. And I'm also still not positive about the shoulders, but again, I'm gonna wait until we have that in sequins just to see what that does before we add the sleeves, and we'll figure it out then. But otherwise, I think we are now good. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the excess parts that I needed to and notate this on my pattern so that I know what I'm doing if I wanna do this again. And I'm gonna cut out at least 1 layer of sequins, but I think I'm probably gonna do 2 like I mentioned before, because I feel like that look is gonna be better. I won't know for sure until I can kind of lay things out over the purple and play with it, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do 2 layers of sequins, except that my sewing machine will really, really hate me if I make it sew through 4 layers of sequins altogether, because 2 on each side from a seam is 4. And I'd rather not have my machine hate me. Like, it's gonna hate me anyway. I'm sewing with sequins. But 4 layers of sequins, that's a lot of sequins. And then I'm gonna be gathering sequins on the skirt. That's a lot of sequins. And I'd rather not kill my machine. So please keep your fingers crossed for me. It is amazing how much pinker this looks on camera than it does like in front of me. In front of me, all of the sequins basically look blue and purple, and they're on a pink mesh. But then as I get kind of angled, these ones that are more like shining, then they look pink to my eyes. But I feel like overall this is looking still more pink than it does in person. In any case, I'm trying to figure out if it is worth it to do the 2 layers. So up here, you can see that I do have the 2 layers, and it is reading more pink for sure. So I think it's gonna be worth it, but I kind of wish that I had like something lightweight pink to put underneath, because maybe that would do the same thing instead of an entire other layer of sequins. But I don't think I do have something like lightweight sheerish pink. I don't know. I might dig around in my stash to see if there's anything that I can find, because I feel like when this is all bunched together, though right now you are looking at the back, but when this is all bunched together, it reads much more pink, even when it is like over purple. So like where we're going to have the gathers, that's going to read pretty light pink. Whereas we compare that to this, and this definitely reads more blue purple. So yeah, I'm definitely torn because I do think something is needed to kind of tone down the blue purple, but I don't know if I have something besides more of the sequin. So I just wanted to show you how transformative these sequins are, because this is some light pink poly cotton, like I think it was old sheets or something, and it makes the sequins look full on blue over practically a white background. This is in between the purple and the sequins, by the way. Over on this side, in this section right here, we have some really pale pink, like shimmer organza. I don't remember off the top of my head what this was left from, possibly peaches, and I don't think I have a lot of it. I found this like strip, so this is not a big enough piece to get like the back piece out of, just for example. It does turn it maybe a little bit more pink, but I feel like what it is also doing is still making the sequins read more blue. And when we see the sequins all together like this, they don't read more blue. To be honest, I almost think what is needed is to put a piece of the sequin mesh like backwards, so that the right side faces down underneath this. So I'm gonna take a look at what that looks like. Well, it definitely reads more pink than this or this. However, we would then be crunching through 4 layers of sequins, it seems, and I still feel like it's making the sequins themselves feel fairly blue, not up here where they're catching the light, but I think that is just how it catches the light, period. But it is making them feel still pretty blue, like the individual sequins, though it does make the backing look more pink. Somehow I feel like when we gather up the bits of sequin, I don't know, I feel like they don't look as blue. I guess they do. That still looks pretty blue to have like a bunch of sequins together. Honestly, I kind of wish that the color of these sequins was the back, because the back is that beautiful, just like light pink without all of the different colors in there. I mean, I do like this, and this color in particular is very Galinda. I feel like that is totally her new dress. But we have the issue of what happens when we put it all together. I don't know, should I nix the ruffles? Like, I don't know, I really like the ruffle look, but I'm starting to feel like maybe I should nix the ruffles and do this more as like a circle skirt. But then we have the issue that if I do it as a circle skirt, we run into the stretch issue that I talked about before. So I don't know where we're going, but I have to think on that a bit. Look at those colors though. Those colors are so Galinda. I love that. I love that color play. That's really nice. I feel like this is now pretty nice. This is a little piece of pink mesh that is left over from Rapunzel's sleeves. And I, again, don't have very much of it. And I think this is the only piece I have. So this is not enough to do, like I could get maybe one piece out of this, or maybe the fronts, but not the back or something like that. And I don't know where I can find this because I'm pretty sure this was from Joann's. But this reads that more like peachy pink, though again, it's still making the sequins read very blue. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a closer pink match to like the pink mesh that's in the selvage over here. I think I should still dig through my stash a little to see what else I might have, but this is the closest we found so far. Like, it makes this look almost non-existent or almost more white toned. You can see the difference here still with the nothing underneath besides the purple, the organza, the pink mesh versus the double-sided, which this is still reading kind of the peachiest and the nicest, but I don't know. This is close. And if all else fails, I could go up to Renton and go to, I think it's called Fabrics for Less, and see what sort of like prom dress fabrics they have. Maybe bring those up with me and play around with them. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. I did not have any other pink materials of any sort that would work for what I'm trying to do. The best thing so far has definitely been the power mesh. So last night I went on Amazon just to see if I could get power mesh from Amazon so that I could get it quickly, because you can't get that locally. Like, even if I were to go to the fabric store in Renton, which naturally does not have hours with when I'm going to be in Renton, I highly doubt have power mesh. So anyway, I ordered 3 different types of pink power mesh on Amazon. Surprising selection that I could get, and that will all be here tomorrow. That's going to be after this video ends, but hopefully it will work. In the meantime, I am going to continue cutting out the other bodice pieces with 1 layer of the sequins, and then kind of put that aside and start to look, I think it's sleeves, or at least like what size I want the sleeves to be, so that I can put that fabric aside and then maybe turn my attention back to the skirt. So I'm gonna go cut things, and then maybe we'll have time to look at sleeves. So I've just been doing a bunch of math, and the good news is that I have enough fabric for the ruffles. I will not have enough fabric for the ruffles if I attempt to cut 2 layers of sequins for the bodice. So that is not happening. Either the power mesh will work, or it will look more purple, I guess. That's the other option. Honestly, I have no other option. Basically, when I was looking at the ruffles, which again, I'm doing 3 tiers of ruffles, I was looking at it as the first ruffle is actually going to be the same width around as the waist that is getting gathered in from the skirt. So that is 135 inches. And that basically takes up 2.5 panels across the width of the sequins. And then the middle is 202.5 inches long. That's a 1.5 ratio, like 1.5 to 1. And that is a little over 3.5 panels. And then the bottom is a 2-to-1 ratio, 270 inches, and takes just over 5 panels, really. And it leaves me with this section right here for sleeves. which should be enough. I think that like sleeves going halfway across the width of the fabric, I think that will be just fine because this can't make that much of a puff because it's so heavy. So yeah, that's gonna work. I am hemming my skirt base right now and I will wind up cutting all of these out. But that said, I've run out of time for this video. So I should be able to finish all of this off next week. Hopefully. I am in rehearsals now for Annie, which if you're interested in coming to Annie, if you're in the Puget Sound area, I will link that information down below. Don't forget there's also only 2 more weeks to sign up for the Ireland Castle stay. So again, all that information will also be linked down below. But yeah, we will go ahead and finish this up next week, hopefully the power mesh is going to work as well. So I'm super excited. If you like this video though, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and sometimes with additional costuming related content or shorts out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have linked to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to take this time to give my absolutely amazing patrons a humongous thank you, particularly my patrons at the Romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian level tiers, who are Jean, Kim, the Dowager Duchess Isabel Thompson, Audra, Janet, Deborah C., Rowan, Cher Bear, Deborah T., Robin, Nurse Anita, Linda, Nick and Stephen, Jen, Dale, Judd, and Eileen. Thank you all so much. I seriously could not do all of this without you. And thank you all for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week and a fantastic Halloween, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!